to the first episode of Kerri and Dan Save Christmas, your favorite holiday movie podcast that you're listening to right now. I'm Kerri.
And I'm Dan.
And today we're talking about Happiest Season, Clea Duvall's directorial debut, lesbian Christmas movie that has set queer woman Twitter alight over the last few weeks.
Oh, yes, it has.
Yes. But before we begin, I think we should say a little bit what this podcast will be about. It's a short little, I don't know, what do you call it? Like, we were going to call it an advent calendar, but Dan had very strong feelings about advent calendars have to have all 25 days. Yeah.
We don't have 25 episodes.
No, we don't. We only have 12 days of Christmas. So every day between now and Christmas, we will be releasing a new movie or a new podcast about a holiday movie that I was going to say we love, but that is not the case for a lot of
people. It's not the case. How about encouraged discussion? Wow, that made me sound like such a nerd.
No, but I love it. Yeah. So we're kind of like, we're kind of guiding you towards some of our favorites and helping you, there's so much stuff to watch across Hallmark movies, Lifetime, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max has a Christmas dating show. There's so many options out there.
It's so good. Highly recommend. 12 Days of Christmas.
Ooh, see, I have to start that soon. So this is basically kind of our guide to, what we liked, and hopefully steering you guys clear of some of the things we really did not enjoy. But also, come at us. Like, if we, tweet at us, let us know if we got it wrong, or, actually tweet at Dan
Kerri,
if we got it wrong.
Come on.
No, yes, there we go. Tweet at Dan if you got it wrong. Tweet at me if you share our opinions. I want a feedback bubble that only agrees with me. But I think we should be clear on the outset that we both love holiday movies.
We do.
And it's particular, and we're not trying to do something where we're just dunking on like these movies for being corny and campy and over the top, which they are.
That's what we love about them.
But that's what we love about them. And particularly in 2020, I think we need permission to feel joy and laughter wherever we can.
Yes.
So we're doing this podcast.
Yeah. Kerri, so what do you look for in a Christmas movie?
Ooh. Honestly, I normally don't look for chemistry even with the leads. That's not a thing I particularly expect. Although, to segue a little bit towards Happiest Season, which they didn't, I would argue the primary couple does not have, but there is very good on-screen chemistry between Kristen Stewart and Aubrey Plaza, who plays Riley, who is the ex of Mackenzie Davis's character, Harper, who is the prime love interest for Abby, played by Kristen Stewart. We will get there.
Done.
Thank you.
Applause. Well done.
Yes. But yeah, so it really, seeing chemistry, and when you do see it in these holiday movies, is so exciting. But honestly, the thing I look for is I just want to laugh, whether it's with the movie. In the case of Happiest Season, it is with the movie a lot of the time, or at the movie in the case of a few of my favorites, which we will get to later in the show. But I honestly, because you can't look for stunning cinematography a lot of the time, or particularly good costumes, although this movie had pretty good costumes, just because the budget isn't there for the majority of these, because they are an industrial complex and it's about getting these out fast and furious at the end of the season. But how about you, Daniel? What is the thing that you must look for?
Well, cinematography. No, I'm kidding. So I think, it's a feeling. For those people who are listening, I am a Cancer and my Enneagram number is a 4.
You're a 4?
I have a lot of feelings. I just want at the end to have my tears streaming down my face from joy. That is all I want. And that can come in a multitude of ways. Mostly by seeing lots of people happy on screen. Because I tend to watch darker things throughout the year. I'm a generally bubbly person, so my entertainment is darker. And then my Christmas holiday content needs to be lighter.
Merry and bright.
Yes, merry and bright. And so you'll actually find throughout the show that anything that kind of threatens the Christmas spirit, as it were, does not go over well with me. Yeah.
We'll have much to discuss as we go forward in this. So now we should get to our first segment, our 60-second roundup.
Yeah, happiest season. Let's go, Kerri.
Are you going to time me?
I am.
Okay, so I have 1 minute. I've stolen this bit, I confess, from Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, which is a fantastic podcast. All right, let me know when.
3, 2, 1, go.
So Happiest season, the primary couple, as I said, is Kristen Stewart, who plays Abby, and Mackenzie Davis, who plays Harper. They are young lesbians in love, walking around Pittsburgh in the holiday season. Abby's parents died about 10 years prior, and she, doesn't really do much for the holidays, but Harper is like, come home with me. I want my family to meet you. I love you. Abby is over the moon. She and her best friend, Dan Levy, played by Dan Levy. I do not remember his name.
25 seconds.
Oh my gosh. She plans to propose to her. And as they are like right outside the front door of her family's home, Harper tells Abby that she in fact has not come out like she said she had about 6 months ago. They just think that they are roommates. There are a bunch of hijinks. And then you meet her ex and you find out Harper has been keeping, a lot of women secret from the family. Dang, I was close.
Okay, what's one thing that you left out that you think needs to be included in the 60-second roundup?
The fact that the movie ends with a forcible outing of the main character that leads her to deny her being in a relationship with Kristen Stewart, and then Kristen Stewart takes it personally, but then they get back together and it's just fine and no one really discusses anything. It's just fine. So that was kind of the basic plot premise. I will say the 60 seconds doesn't really do it justice because it actually is a really complex movie in a few ways, because like it was marketed as a super bubbly Christmas rom-com. It's like, oh, I'm not out yet. Hijinks, we're pretending we're just gal pals. And which is like what I watched a trailer. I was like, I would watch this. This is like, yes, it's using coming out as a theme, which Daniel and I are both as a team
familiar with.
Yeah, we're both familiar with. I was gonna try and think of something clever. Like, what do teens say? And I'm like, I don't know.
We're a part of the community.
Yeah, we're a part of the alphabet community. And so there was a lot of discourse, capital D, about like, have we seen enough coming out movies? Are we over coming out movies as a concept? Like, can we get other stories? And I'm like, yes, we should have other stories like that. But at the same time, I'm like, those are so important. As someone who's only been out literally a handful, like 2 years, for me, those stories are super useful and super helpful, particularly, adult coming out stories that are not like about being 15, which is so much of coming out media is. Or about being a teenager or in your early 20s. Like, it is nice to see an older character kind of have that arc.
Side note, Kerri, it's so interesting that you just said that you've been out for 2 years, because in 2 years, I'll have been out for 20 years, and that's how old I am. Oh my goodness. Okay, anyway, movie, let's go.
Congratulations. Happy 20th. What is that, a silver anniversary? Something like that.
Something old.
You got to get yourself some silver, like Lycra pants or something, and go to House of Yes or something. But anyway, so what were your thoughts about this movie, Daniel?
So, I mean, here's what's interesting. It's a good film. It is not a good Christmas movie.
It's not a good rom-com either.
I mean, as a film, I think it explores some really important stuff, and it looks good, and like the performances are really good. Mm-hmm. The direction is great. The screenplay is good. It's not a happy movie. The title bothers me because it literally is the opposite of Happiest season. Like, it seems very, it's a heavy movie. Like, watching it and you're like, this is stressful. It's a family drama. Know what's going on. Yeah,
it's a family drama with jokes. The primary comparison that I got, like, in media when it first came out was The Family Stone. Yeah. And a point that somebody made, I wish I could credit somebody on Twitter, basically said the fundamental difference between this family and the Family Stone is like the Family Stone, as terrible as they were to Sarah Jessica Parker, and they were terrible, you get the fundamental feeling that they all are extremely close and they love each other and would do anything for each other. This is the opposite feeling.
Yeah,
it's
this
like,
family
yes,
is not close.
they're like a little nice to Kristen Stewart, but very distant, but also extremely toxic.
Orphan.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing that Harper introduces her to her family is like, oh, she's an orphan that I live with. And I will say, to her credit, Alison Brie was like, doesn't Harper live in a 1-bedroom? And then from there, Chris Stewart just has to like kind of like flat. It was actually pretty funny where she's like trying to like come up with the explanation, and Alison Brie just goes, "I've decided I no longer want to have this conversation," and walks off at like a party.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Cool, thanks. Whew, that was easy." And I will say there are so many moments in the family where I'm like, at the end of the movie, Kristen Stewart is eventually, Harper is accepted by this family that we're led to believe is like vaguely conservative, or because the dad's running for mayor. If he's not conservative himself, is running on a family values platform, which, coded for Republican, is like Republican coded. The Anna Gasteyer, who is like the wealthy lobbyist or former mayor, something like that they're trying to seek an endorsement from. And, she is very much like, if your daughter will stay in the closet, you can have, whatever I'm willing to give you. And he, the big turning point is that he says no, and that he like welcomes Abby into the family. And I'm like, at the end of the movie, I was like, I don't really want her to be in this family. This family is incredibly toxic, to the point that not only does your main character feel not good about coming out and being safe to be out, but also that her sister, Alison Brie, who plays her sister Sloane, outs her forcibly. Like in public, in a group, in a large group, not even just like among the family, the entire town is there. And I'm like, and also she's outing her to save face, because Harper was going to out her husband for having an affair. And they had basically, Alison Sloane and her husband had agreed to just like stay together through the holidays and then divorce like quietly. And it was just like so much like shame. You just get the feeling that there's such a cloud of shame in this family around like being imperfect and being human beings. And which we'll get to with their sister, who is like the happy Jane, who is the happy, well-adjusted one, who's like very campy and very silly and very sweet, who is the only one who is uncorrupted by these like really terrible people, played by lovely actors that we all enjoy. Victor Garber as the dad, and Mary Steenburgen
as Tipper, which explains everything you need to know about that character.
Truly. If you want to talk a little bit more about family dynamics, Dan, because I know you have a lot of thoughts about Jane, who is lovely, played by co-writer of the film, I want to point out. Shoot, what's her name? Hold on.
Is her name Mary Holland? Did I just make that up?
I think that's close. I mean, that's a very good like Christmassy name if it's not.
Right.
1 second. Played by Mary Holland. You are correct.
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't even have to look up. Woo!
Who co-wrote the script?
We have to be better prepared moving forward, though.
Yes. But thank you for IMDb. I'm grateful for this year.
Gosh.
But let's talk about Jane.
Jane is my spirit animal on a great day. I mean, she dances at holiday galas by herself. She goes up to men that she doesn't know and asks them if they want to dance or go out on a date. She spends 100 hours on a beautiful painting and gifts it. And even when it's destroyed, she's like, you know what? That was really hurtful, but it's okay because I'm Jane and I am bigger and stronger because of this. And I just love her so I just love her. Like everything that she does in this movie comes from a place of joy and wanting to bring other people happiness. And that to me is a very good person.
She is a huge bright spot in this movie, but also I would juxtapose her with Riley, played by the lovely and amazing Aubrey Plaza, who wears the most spectacular blazers the entire movie, and is gorgeous in this like light beat that she has on her face. She looks like super like mature and like gorgeous, and she plays a doctor who is introduced as Harper's former ex. And basically Harper, throughout the course of the movie, is helping her dad with his campaign, and so abandons Abby at every turn. So Abby's like, I have to do white elephant shopping by myself, and I have to do all these other, situations. So she's like home. She was invited home to presumably meet her girlfriend's parents and family for the first time. They don't even know that she exists or that they've been dating for a year, living together for a year. And then is abandoned, and like they're all super busy and have like the oldest sister has like 2 kids. The
oldest sister makes gift baskets.
Yeah. Oh, she was like a high-powered lawyer. She and her husband were high-powered lawyers, and then they make these like. And I will say a very good ongoing bit is them explaining their business as like not just gift baskets. It's like a luxury crafted experience. Curated like basket or whatever. It's very, very funny. But they basically very much set her up that this woman, she's completely alone, and Riley kind of introduces herself, and then at one point they go to a gay bar together, and you get a lovely appearance from Jinx Monsoon and Ben de la Creme, 2 of my favorite RuPaul's Drag Race queens, who like basically do what all drag queens do best, is look like if they see people in a serious conversation, interrupt and try to publicly embarrass you. And I'm like, God bless. I love drag queens so much. They're so fun. But basically, like if you look really serious at a gay bar, they will they can like heat sensors find you. And make sure,
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, exactly. It's like trying to like find you and make sure you're having a good time and bring you into the fold, which is lovely. But anyway, they do this in the scene, and Riley reveals that Harper, they were high school girlfriends and secret and closeted and everything. And one of her classmates found a note, and Harper not only outed Riley, but basically said, oh, she's just weird and obsessed with me in a gay way, ew, whatever. And so like Riley just kind of, but then also their families are super close, so they constantly see each other every year. And so they're kind of in each other's orbit, and we get this really nice friendship between Kristen Stewart. Friendship that everyone who's seen this movie ships them, and is very much like, first of all, there's so much more chemistry here, and also your girlfriend treats you really terribly and her family is like really mean. Maybe you should run off with Aubrey Plaza. And I strongly share that opinion. But that kind of like segues into a thing that also was very nice, that in a lot of movies where, first of all, queer folks are usually second fiddle in a lot of holiday content. They are the supportive, like much like there's a quote unquote sassy, fun Black friend or a mom Black friend, one of the two, which, plays into very specific stereotypes of like Black folks being funny and doing your emotional labor for you. I say this as a Black woman who, like, whenever I see that in a movie, even when they have lovely stars in them playing these parts, like you do get an eye roll. But also, it's a trope thing at this point that it's frustrating, but it's usually pretty ubiquitous. This movie, while being extremely white, and in the way
white,
deeply white, I will say Sloane's husband, Eric, who's played by Burl Mosley, is extremely funny in his part. And then they have 2 biracial children who are used in a very strange way, in which they like rob something from a gift store and they frame Abby for it, or they like put something in her purse so that she gets in trouble, and has a very fun scene with some mall cops. But anyway, I digress. As well as this movie does not particularly do in terms of racial representation, it does a great job in adding queer supporting characters to this. So it's not just like a copy and paste of the usual hyper heteronormative and white holiday movie. It's like, well, yes, it's still, it's not just sliding lesbians into this formula completely. It is actually enriching the universe, where you get Dan Levy playing John, and then you have Aubrey Plaza, who plays a lesbian named Riley. But it's very nice to see that sort of extended universe of like, because that's realistic, because like, LGBTQAI plus folks find each other. We build community. There is chosen family as a is such a strong value in our community. And so it was very nice to see that represented. And that's something I think particularly Clea Duvall, who's one of the most famous like lesbian trailblazers in Hollywood, was very mindful of. And I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because, you know, what we as the LGBTQ plus community deserve are these richly developed queer characters, both in leading and supporting roles. And I feel like we got that with this movie, but what we didn't get was like the joy, right? Like there's a lot of trauma in this movie, and that's kind of where I think that's why it became such a conversation point on Twitter. I mean, people had feelings with a capital F about this movie.
Absolutely. And I think it was mostly because, and as good of a job as Mackenzie Davis does, given her character is not written well at all, and also isn't on screen all that much. We don't get it. We don't get a scene with her and Abby, or Harper and Abby, like seeing them in love and seeing what they love about each other. We really get, a quick montage at the beginning, and then Harper okay, I do want to quickly digress and talk about the scene in the beginning. But I will say, like, we don't root for them together, which is the main flaw of this movie. We don't spend the movie, if we're going to do a fish out of water holiday movie, which most of them are like, big city gal moves to a small town or goes back to her hometown and like has to learn to like Christmas again, whatever. And which is kind of what we're supposed to believe, right? We're supposed to believe Kristen Stewart, Christmas lost its magic after, she doesn't really have any family to spend it with anymore. Makes sense, works as a premise. And then now it's like a big, family hijinks situation. But so much of the time it's so serious. And we're not rooting for her in the character that she ultimately ends up with, because that character is not only forcing her back into the closet again, but like just not spending time with her and not cutting her any slack. Or we don't see them have laughs or even like cute stolen moments together, because like
there are none to be found.
There are not very many. There's a couple of like innuendo moment, and they're all like, it's like, oh, why were you in her room last night? It's not like pure lighthearted like you would see in these movies where it's like, oh no, my sleigh a sled got stuck in a snowbank, or oh, I have to help a small child with a task.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Look at,
that's usually what the stakes are. The stakes of this
right?
movie are coming out and being disowned by your family, which is not what you normally, the gravitas of this is not what you normally see in these movies.
Yeah.
Oh, can we talk about the weird Christmas light tour thing in the beginning?
Oh, yes, let's. Because you have very strong feelings about this.
Yeah, no, this is deranged. And how we should have known Harper was no good from the very beginning. There's nothing wrong with, first of all, there's nothing I love more than going through my neighborhood looking at Christmas lights. Love that. One of my favorite parts of like the holiday season. This is how we open on the characters, where it's like they are walking through, but they're doing a guided tour through Pittsburgh, not of like mansions or anything where they go all out, or like a particularly, special. It's like just normal looking houses in downtown Pittsburgh, but with a guided tour with like 20 other people. And I'm like, I don't understand what this is. Like, these are people's private residences.
I get it. I wish this actually existed, because 100% this is something that my family would have done growing up. Like, this is taking it to the next level. It is weird within the context of the movie. Also, whose roof were they sitting on?
That's what I thought. Because at first I thought Harper was like, oh, come and sit on like this roof of someone I know. And someone was like, following this girl on the roof. That's how she should have known. It was like it was a stranger's roof. And then she fell, and then Kristen Stewart kind of almost falls off.
Yeah.
And like, not her death. She probably would have like broken a leg or something. And this woman is just like, oh yeah, sorry. And I'm like, this is a little quirky nonsense that it doesn't even make sense to me. I was like, what was the characterization we were supposed to have of Harper?
Right.
I'm not sure what the writers of this movie thought they were characterizing her as. Like, because she really isn't like a free spirit. We were kind of led to believe that Kristen Stewart thinks she is, but I kind of wish we had more time with them being like, Harper becomes a totally different person around her family, for Abby to kind of really second guess their relationship. Because if we had a scene of like, Harper, you normally don't drink white wine, and then she's like, no, this is my favorite. This is what my family has always drunk, sort of thing, where I'm doing the like, stop talking gesture when I realize this is a podcast. if we got scenes like that of her like full on lying about things in her life other than her sexuality, I'm like, oh, this is driving home that our family is very controlling and very image conscious. Right. And in ways, and that is the resolution of the movie. Victor Garber realizes that, and Mary Steenburgen realizes that they've created a too hostile and competitive of an environment for them to all feel like they love their kids. But I wanted more of that. I wanted more of these moments of Abby having to reckon with these two people, with like a whole nother person. And I thought that would have been a more satisfying arc to see that on the other side. Also, can we talk about the scene where Harper hangs out with her friends all night and then just doesn't text Abby? And then Abby's like, hey, I'm glad you made it home okay. I didn't, and then she's like, stop smothering me. And I was like, what are you talking about? You invited her here.
Yeah, I mean,
that made me rage. I lost my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Harper clearly shifts upon arriving home, and the victim is Abby. I mean, like, throughout this film, she is constantly treated poorly by her girlfriend. And like, they do love each other. You don't see it, except at the beginning.
You just get a vibe. We're supposed to just vibe with that they're right. In love, whatever.
And I think that's kind of the crux of what you're missing, right? It's like you get this vibe at the beginning, then the vibe is taken away.
Immediately. Like with a massive lie where she's like, oh, I told my family, I told you that I came out to my family 6 months ago. That was a lie. And so I'm like, so she's been consistently lying to this woman for 6 months, like in big and small ways.
Yes. So that is, it's a major, I don't want to say flaw, because obviously this was a very conscious decision. And like I said before, like it works as a film, like as a movie about the coming out experience. I actually think this is pretty spot on. Like Harper's reaction to bringing her girlfriend home while she's still in the closet, I feel like that probably happens to a lot of people. It is just not the Christmas movie that I'm looking for, and it's not how it was marketed.
I think it could have had more hijinks. I think if it had more genuine, lighthearted hijinks, this premise does not work for me. Like, I would happily watch another iteration of this movie.
Totally.
I'll watch this movie again, too. To be clear, I will watch this movie like 10 more times.
Probably will not. Yeah. But I don't want to end things on a bad note. So let's talk about our favorite scenes.
Yes. Oh, my favorite one was hands down the scene in the drag bar or the gay bar. I just thought it was great acting from both of their perspectives. First of all, as someone who was not like a gay girl for Kristen Stewart, who granted I watched Twilight quite a bit, but that's not for Kristen Stewart. It's for camp. I enjoy camp.
As one does.
Yes, as two people who run a Christmas movie podcast should. This is the first time I was like, oh, you're like an actor. Like, you can act. This is the first time I've ever felt, other than her scene in Panic Room when she was 12 and she has to fake a diabetic seizure. But other than that, it was a good performance from her, and Aubrey Plaza was spectacular. And it just like made me miss being in bars, and also gay bars in particular. Just like that cheesy neon lighting and the gross, wood furniture and everything, you know what I mean? It made me miss the West Village.
Sticking to the floor.
Right. And I miss performance, drag performances and stuff like that. I was just like, it just made me so happy. And also two of my favorite queens again are in it. So I loved it. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah. Quick shout out to Jinx Monsoon and Ben de la Creme, whose Christmas special is out now, if you want to look it up.
Yes, go look it up.
My favorite scene, shockingly, I don't know why this is the one that stuck out for me. It's when Riley approaches Abby. So Abby's on the phone with the character played by Dan Levy and John. Mm-hmm. And Abby's like, this is so weird. Like, I'm basically being forced back into the closet. I do not like this. And Riley comes up and says, we don't have to talk about it, but I just want you to know that I know how you feel, or something along those lines. And Abby doesn't take up the offer to have this conversation, right? So Riley offers an olive branch and Abby politely declines. And it's just this beautiful moment of acknowledgement that this situation is really fraught and confusing. And yet, that is the moment where you know that Riley and Abby belong together.
Yes. Oh, you see Aubrey Plaza, I wouldn't even say politely turns it down. She just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't, which is good, which is kind of what a loyal girlfriend who is determined not to out her other girlfriend, and someone definitely overheard a call where you're kind of would have outed her if somebody knew what you were talking about. Shut it down. And I'm like, yes, that is how you be a good partner. But at the same time, you see Aubrey Plaza's eyes fill with tears where she's like, I felt like I found someone who knew what I had gone through through the same person, no less. And she just taps her glass and kind of, it shifts awkwardly and moves back inside. And it was just such a great, that is the performance I think about the most in that scene of just those micro, expressions of just like sadness.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. But that was the moment where I was like, oh no, I just want her to find love so bad.
Yeah.
It's all in all. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's slide into our final judgments. How would you, on our arbitrary rating scale that I think will change episode to episode, how would you rank this movie, Dan? Our highest rating, our gold standard though, is It Saves Christmas.
Yes. I would say Socks for Christmas. It's useful. Love them. Not on my wish list. Not what I was looking for. Happy to have them. Will I wear them more than once? When I need to.
Oh, see, that's it. First of all, I love socks for Christmas, especially like funky design socks, but that's just the type of gay I am.
Fair.
I would rank this movie as, I was gonna say Mimosa Christmas Morning, but that's like too cheerful for what this movie is. Like, I would say
great though.
Oh yeah, that's what my family does the last couple of years. It's great. I would say like A Night Before Christmas, Irish Coffee, in that it like burns a little bit going down sometimes, but overall there are moments that make you feel really warm and have sweetness to them, and you really enjoy it.
Yeah. I support that.
Yeah. So that about does it for our first episode of Kerri and Dan Saves Christmas. Where can folks find you, Daniel?
You can find me on Twitter at dmeyernews, and then you can find me on Instagram at dmeyer2010. And that Meyer is Meyer.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at _IamLivingColor and on Instagram at IamLivingColor. This is Kerri and Dan Save Christmas signing off. Would you like to say the final tagline, Daniel?
Sure. May your holiday movie viewing be merry and bright.
Uh-huh.